G'day and welcome to the Hunting Connection podcast. My name is Zach Williams and I am your host. Here we'll connect you with hunters, fishers and outdoor enthusiasts from around the globe. This podcast will share hunting and fishing stories, including past experiences, and tackle the tough hunting stereotypes our community faces. We hope to be a positive influence to those outside the community while also having a laugh along the way. Hope you enjoy the podcast. G'day and welcome to another episode of Hunting Connection podcast. On this episode, I am joined by Olly, or otherwise known as RCR Olly on Instagram from Rocky Creek Ranch. How you going?
Good, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, pretty good, mate. Pretty good with the circumstances going on that we've ended last year with and started off this year with. So,
yeah, that's it. It's interesting times. It's going to be interesting times ahead.
Yeah, like, you know, I've chatted to a lot of people over the years of doing the podcast about the gun laws that were introduced in 96 and, you know, just how they have affected people, and then with the WA changes, how they've affected people as well. And, yeah, now it's looking like New South Wales is next on the chopping block, but it looks like the whole of Australia is going to go down that path as well.
Yeah, I think it'll just be sort of dominoes falling one after another and see what happens. But yeah, New South Wales will be the first ones off. Probably very similar laws to Western Australia, I imagine. And then I think the other states will just sort of watch and see from there. Yeah,
it's scary times. But we'll jump on to some happier notes anyway. How did you get into shooting, hunting in the outdoors?
Yeah, so I didn't really have, I suppose, like a traditional introduction to it. My dad wasn't into hunting. He liked fishing and stuff, but I actually introduced my dad to firearms later in life. But so my first introduction to hunting, I guess, was in North Queensland. Used to go out with my mate's dad and, yeah, used to go after pigs with dogs and then rifles and, you know, various things. And, yeah, so I just used to tag along with them kind of things, and I think that's sort of where it all started, the interest in it. I love fishing as well. That's obviously taken a little bit of a turn in WA at the moment, but yeah, so I guess that's it really. It started from there, probably 8-9 years old up in North Queensland.
Yeah, beautiful. And then how'd you progress into more and more?
So yeah, once I sort of obviously became an adult and that, I did a bit of off-sighting for a professional roo shooter over here in WA, and he's just selling me like $50 and, you know, give him a hand and things like that. And because the price of the meat back then, I think, was maybe 25-30 cents a kilo. It wasn't great. And over here it's all only for pet food consumption, so you can't, you know, sell it for human consumption and things like that. So I started out with that, and then I used to give him a hand, and he sort of introduced me to my first kind of property and things like that to be able to get letters and things, and yeah, just started from there really.
Yeah, amazing. And then, so has most of your stuff been pest control or recreational hunting as well, or just a bit of everything?
Yeah, so so I did my marksmanship exam and that, and got the professional roo shooting license. I was doing that for a bit, obviously not as a primary income, just as a sort of a secondary thing and a bit of a hobby. And yeah, shooting rabbits and foxes, pigs, things like that. Yeah, recreational hunting, helping farmers. So yeah, WA, you probably already know, but there's no hunting on public land. It's all private. So you've basically got to know a farmer or know someone with a large bit of land or whatever to be able to go hunting.
And all that's changed now as well since the new laws. They're only allowed to send a number of people on each property.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so I did the primary producer license, so I issue permissions for our property, and initially it was going to be 5. You could give out a maximum of 5 permissions for people, but they upped it to 15 because it just wasn't anywhere near enough. People can't come out all the time and things like that. So
that's insane. Yeah, it's mind-boggling how it's all gone down. But with the roost shooting side of things, explain what happens with that. How you got into it. Well, you said that you were an offsider, but what's involved in getting license for it, and what's it actually involved? Because there's a lot of and I've tried to get more people on to chat about roost shooting, but it's a hard subject, especially with all the misnomers going around about it. You get a lot of their animal rights activists going overseas and going to different countries and tugging on heartstrings of people over there, getting kangaroo leather and meat and that banned for export, places like California and I think Denmark and a bunch of other places.
Yeah, so it's interesting world, interesting people. But we had to do the marksmanship exam, which was from memory, I think it was 100 meters under spotlight, and you had to get 5 shots in. I think it was 75 mil. So you had a 75 mil target to obviously represent the brain of the kangaroo, and so you had to get 5 out of 5 for that, and then. I think it was TAFE New South Wales actually did the course via correspondence, so they'd send you the bookwork and things like that. It's probably all online now, but yeah, they were sort of the only supplier of it. The course, there was none in Western Australia or anything like that, so yeah, it's all via correspondence.
And then you're going out at night time only shooting bucks and...
No, so yeah, you get the tags, and obviously you get like you got to tag them and things like that. But yeah, so it's sort of you're going for the biggest animal, so you're not wasting your time essentially.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, it's a difficult one, and people don't understand how in plague proportions kangaroos are all around Australia. The animal rights activists try and say that they're an endangered species almost, where if you drive any country road at night you're almost bound to hit a kangaroo, and it just shows you like there's more water, more food on the landscape than before white settlement, so there's more kangaroos than ever now. It's insane.
Yeah, there's a farm just down the road. It's sort of next to a major highway, and if you look into their paddocks sort of dusk, you can easily 30 to 50 kangaroos mob just standing there, 10, 15 metres off the road, not moving, not caring about nothing.
Yeah, it's such a difficult one, because if they had antlers, it'd almost be you'd have better tagging systems for them, and you'd be able to control them a bit better. But because they're basically a Tyrannosaurus deer with no antlers, they're not really useful for much, and people aren't massive, like they don't really like eating them compared to venison due to worms and stuff like that. It's nuts.
Yeah, I can't stand the smell of it. Like, I don't know if it comes from processing that many of them, but yeah, I don't. I've tried to eat it once. Yeah, it's definitely not for me.
Yeah, it's a strange one. If I really have any friends come over from overseas, they'll want to try it. I just take them down to the local Coles and get them to buy some there. I'm just like, look, it's much better. If you want something good to eat, I'll get you venison.
Yeah, the fella who I off-sided for, he's passed away now. He was an old fella, but because he couldn't take the root tails to the processors, so he used to keep them all, and then when he'd do a trip up north, he'd distribute them amongst the communities, and they're always very grateful for it. But supposedly that's the best part, the tail.
Yeah, I've had that in a few campfire stews, and it goes all right. But you've also got plenty of other herbs and spices and sauces going in there with it. You just wouldn't want to pick at it with how sinewy it is.
That's it. Wash it down with something.
That's it. Put 3-4 cans of beer in the crock pot just to break them down. So we'll jump straight into the law side of stuff. What was it? 2.5 years ago now, they started introducing the new laws in, and then they fully rolled them out. 2 years ago?
Yeah, so I think it was 2020 they sort of started floating the idea, and it was on the news. Not much information, or it was just the premier at the time was sort of had a bit of a war on against firearms for some reason, and they rolled. I think it was a few days before Christmas 2024, so really realistically just over a year ago. They sent all the firearm owners a 307-page document right before Christmas, and basically said this is the new laws, and they'll be coming in on March 31st, I think it was. So not much accurate information, a lot of misinformation going around, and basically because my license was up in I think it was May at the time, I had to act pretty quick, but yeah, so they didn't really give the initial people that much time to try and figure it out.
Yeah, there was loads of stuff in it, stuff like mental health checks, all sorts of stuff, limiting of firearms, calibers, them determining on what calibers you can own, determining on what pests they determines on the land that you're going to be shooting on.
Yeah, that's correct. So they'd look at your so everyone had to register their properties. Like if you're a primary producer, or if you had a farm, or hobby farm, or whatever that could people could shoot on, you had to register on that on an online portal, which I believe cost about $50 million, and they still haven't got it right. Had to register on that, and then that's where you issue your hunting permissions to people and things. But yeah, so they'd look at the property size, supposedly take into effect like the geography and things like that for calibers. But yeah, you had to list also what animals or pests there were, things like that. And they were supposedly doing checks against like biodiversity studies and population numbers of pests and things like that to try and, I guess, justify what they were doing, and then to see if you were legitimate about what you were saying as well.
That's insane. And from what I've just seen on social media, it was when they brought the website in, it was just a total failure. Like lots of people couldn't get on, lots of people were struggling, and just lots and lots of issues.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue that they had, I had lots of people contacting me for help and stuff, because I managed to get through it. Not pretty quickly, but I was determined, and was you need a the Gov ID, so you've got to use a digital ID to get onto the portal, which obviously has its own, people are for it, people are against it, most people seem to be against it. So yeah, you had to do that, and they didn't communicate initially that there would be another option. So you got farmers, 70s, 80s, my dad, he's not interested at all in the portal and things like that. So they gave another option where you could go to your police station and things like that and sort it out that way. But that wasn't communicated at all for the first few months, when everyone was sort of panicking and trying to get everything in line.
Yeah, that digital ID one, that's just a tricky subject. I went and got a new phone mid to late last year, and just to sign up to get a new phone, I had to sign up to the digital ID, and otherwise they wouldn't sell you the phone. You couldn't even sign up to get it, which is just absolute nuts.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that one before, but I might just buy a phone outright for now, I think.
Yeah, it's probably the best thing to do, but they'll probably want you to do the digital ID anyway, just so that you can be tracked.
Yeah, no burner phones allowed.
Yeah, well, that's probably what they're trying to avoid, people owning more than one without, not under their proper names and stuff like that. It's just an absolute shit show at the moment when it comes to all of it. And like you said, so much misinformation comes across, like, unfortunately, end of last year we had this Bondi incident, and that's why we're chatting. You've been putting out lots of stuff about that, and as have I. But there's so much misinformation when it's coming out. People are already surrendering their firearms before they even know what's going on, and all the gun stores are like, hey, hold up! Like, the laws haven't come into effect yet. Like, we don't even know what the whole lot includes and what's going on. There's only rumors about what's going on.
Yeah, well, that's it. And when they first sort of announced these kind of regs and things, I'm just speaking on my own personal experience, obviously. In WA, they didn't even announce the buyback. So it was, hunters are going to be able to have 5 guns, primary producers 10 guns. They're just throwing numbers out there. So people were trying to, I suppose, be compliant and things. So they were handing in their rifles and that at police stations, not getting any money for them, like push button release, lever release. And then eventually they announced the buyback. But there was another option as well, which they didn't communicate at the start. So if you had like a sentimental piece, like your grandfather's 303 from the war or something like that, you could actually take it to a gun shop and get it rendered inoperable, and then you could keep it and hang it on your wall. But they didn't communicate that at the start. So you got farmers and stuff hanging in memorabilia, sentimental things, and they've been destroyed. There was videos that they put out of, I think they took a whole pile of firearms out to the desert and blew it up with explosives just to put on the news and, look awesome, I guess. And then they were driving over them with rollers, and yeah, it's out of control.
They love their footage of that shit. We've seen it after 96 with all the old footage, and that it gets recycled every time there's a buyback in every state. Like, it's just absolutely ridiculous in the amount of history that has been lost because of all of this type of thing. It's absolutely mind-boggling. Like, I was only 3.5 when 96 happened, and like that's when my distaste of government started. Because I grew up shooting, and I seen my pop have to surrender a bunch of his firearms, and over the years his collection has gotten less and less and less, and yeah, it was devastating.
Yeah, it was. And then like with the buyback as well that they did in WA, I don't know if you've talked figures or you've spoken figures before, but the money that they were offering for people, they might have competition rifles and things they spent $5,000-$10,000 on easily. I think for a centerfire rifle that was less than 6 years old, they were offering $938. If it was greater than 6 years old, it was only $525. So, people have got thousands of dollars wrapped up, and that's all they're offering, and they're like expecting people to want to be able to hand them in. It's just out of control.
Yeah, that's insane. Like, firearms hold their value pretty well in the secondhand market. You've got all the CZs. They're all, you can buy a third secondhand, like a secondhand or third hand or fifth hand CZ rifle. That's 20, 30 years old or older, and they still go for $900 to $1,000, especially if they're in good condition.
It's probably been run over by a tractor twice as well.
Yeah, exactly. But they hold their value, so them doing those prices is just absolutely insane. And I also seen that they didn't care about any accessories or anything like that, so they told you to hang on to scopes and bipods and whatever else you had installed. But lots of people get all sorts of custom stuff done to their firearms for competition shooting, for hunting. And like you said, $10,000-$15,000 isn't uncommon for some of those higher up rifles.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, there was nothing for scopes and stuff. They were just I'll keep them or sell them or whatever. There was a few gun shops from the East Coast who were advertising on the WA shooting pages and stuff like, hey, consider selling them. But I think that was just initially at the start, and then they got flooded, obviously, with inquiries and stuff, and they pulled the pin on that pretty quick.
Yeah, I joked around about doing an adopt a firearm. So if you're in WA, have a bunch of people that are going to adopt your firearm, so it's still technically yours. And then when you come to the other state, you can still use it.
Yeah, a dollar a day or something.
No,
Sponsor a child.
yeah, almost like just free storage space. I get to use it, but you get to use it when you come down here.
Yeah.
Talk about caliber restrictions. What did you guys see with caliber restrictions over there?
So as like a primary producer, it's fun. You're pretty much unlimited. So you got euthanasia requirements and things like that. The interesting thing that I found was on the hunting side of things, the caliber requirements that they had actually dropped. So, like traditionally, you had like a 223 or whatever, 243. Sorry, I think it was 2,000 acres minimum that they wanted on the old regs, and then now it's dropped. I can't give you an exact figure, but it's definitely below 1,000.
Yeah, that's insane. Like in South Australia, we don't have caliber restrictions when it comes to property size. Like as long as you're shooting safe, it's fine. I grew up on a 5-acre property, but half of it was hill, so I was shooting directly straight into a hill, and there was no issue shooting the 270 or a 300 there. My neighbours were firearms owners, so they were fine with allowed shooting. So, and they'd come and use the range at times as well. So, it blows my mind when it comes to that. Like you hear about Queensland, there's different size properties that you have to use different calibers on, and so that's blown my mind learning about all of that.
Yeah, and they had I used to do volunteer work euthanizing kangaroos for the government and stuff on the side of the road that had been sort of hit and left and things like that. I refuse to do that now, and I used to go around to people's houses, like small properties and that, have to euthanize horses, cows, things like that. And the vets would ask you to, because they don't want to come out here and, to get a vet out here looking at, $1,000 plus sort of situation. So, animal suffering, I suppose, has definitely gone up, and that's something the government obviously doesn't talk about.
Yeah, that's something we're going to see across New South Wales as well. Is just from what we're looking at, like they don't really want anything bigger than a 308. So it's a large enough caliber, but especially if you like doing your long range shooting, I like a 300 because it packs a hell of a punch, and that's my main hunting rifle these days. So if I can't take the 300 over to New South Wales when I go hunt friends' properties, that's going to be very upsetting.
Yeah, well, they released a list at the start of like banned firearms and stuff, and even things like that. So one example I remember, because I have one of them, is like Remington 700. It doesn't mention caliber or anything like that. It just says Remington 700. So I've got a 243 Remington 700, and it's a bolt action. I think four rounds in the chamber. In the magazine. I was thinking, why is this getting banned? But they didn't actually explain the calibers and things like that. It was just model. Everyone's panicking.
Yeah, I've seen a bunch of that. I've got a Rem 700 as well in 270, but I think it's just because movies, and they portray Rem 700s as the main sniper rifles that police use.
yeah. I think that's what the gun shop owner told me as well when I bought it. This is the one the snipers use. Oh, it must be good then.
Yeah, it's crazy, and I've said it on a few different podcasts, but the people that make the firearms laws, it's pretty much like if someone making the traffic laws has never driven a vehicle but only watched Fast and the Furious, and they're making all their traffic laws off of watching those movies.
Oh, 100%. And with the early conversations I had when I was like finally able to get through to the licensing centre, because people are on hold for days and weeks, they were asking, like, why can't you euthanize with a shotgun? Like, why can't you euthanize a bull or a horse with a shotgun? And they were asking from a genuine standpoint. They didn't understand. They think, oh, a gun can kill things. They don't understand the risk involved of getting that close up to a bull that's, injured and things like that. So it took a bit of talking, and I spoke to a few different levels to try and explain the situation and, why people need these calibers and things like that. And it ended up working out okay in that aspect. But there was a lot of people doing a lot of background work. I think, disappointingly, more from the private standpoint than organisations that we'd paid money for a very long time, and they just sort of disappeared.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, was how do you feel that the different organisations over in WA handled the situation?
Yeah, well, like from a standpoint now where I'm looking from outside into New South Wales, and then I see, was it shooters, fishers and that, they're really rallying behind it. And I've seen their fellas in there doing speeches and things. And I thought, well, that's really great. But over in WA at the time, which is when we really all should have tried to stop it, in my opinion, it was only really the Nationals who sort of stood up as a political party because they're traditionally over here, they're, looking after the country regional areas. It was only really them that were, fighting it. I think One Nation jumped in on the end, but there was no shooters fishing party over here. Well, there was a party, sorry, but there wasn't any members, so elected members.
Yeah, that's the hard thing with the Shooters, Fishers, Farmers Party, is that if no one's going to stand up to be a representative for them in the state, you're not going to have anyone. Like, I had a fella down here that I was working with and trying to help him, get enough numbers, and which I think he eventually did, but he just let it all lapse because it was just too much for him in the end. And it's hard to get people into politics. I fucking hate politics, and I try and do everything. Well, up until the bow hunting ban here in South Australia and all this other stuff that's kicked off around Australia, I've tried to always avoid politics.
Yeah. So what can you do over there with your bow? Just target shoot now, pretty much.
Target shoot and bow fish.
Yeah. Okay. So you can still bow fish. Yeah. Right. That's interesting.
So you go to backwaters and shoot carp and that. A few Aboriginal elders spoke up about it. They said that because originally they were looking at banning bow fishing as well, but the Aboriginal elders said, "Hey, if you're banning bow fishing, what's going to stop you from coming after spear fishing and that next?" And they kind of backed down a bit, which was good because we had a few real legitimate Aboriginal elders like step in and put their voice out there against the ban. And the side that brought in the ban, that's their people that they always try and cater towards, and putting it as best as they can, they try and suck up to them. So if you've got that demographic speaking out against it, you don't really want to upset the one demographic that you're trying to suck up to constantly.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying there. It's pretty crazy. So over there, you have public land hunting?
No.
South Oz?
So we've got public land hunting for waterfowl, for ducks only.
Okay.
And the rest is private property.
Yeah, and that's seasonal, is it, the ducks?
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
I haven't done too much. I haven't done any duck shooting, but I've been looking at getting into it. But it overlaps with the rut, so it's shoot 3-4 ducks or shoot a red stag.
Yeah, deer cooler.
kind of weigh it up for the meat side of things and the time spent sort of things. If you're going to get a couple 100 kilos of meat, that's tend to where I go.
Yeah, no, 100%. You've got to allocate your time responsibly.
Oh, especially with a young family and all of that. So, do you have a family, kids, or anything?
Yeah, I got a wife and 2 sons.
Yep.
That's what. Yeah, one thing I was going to sort of mention was they introduced age restrictions for like basically if you're 12 under 12, you can't handle a firearm or you can't shoot, things like that. So I've got a son who's 10, he turned 11, and he is some of our best moments together were just me and him, shooting rabbits and things on the property. And, I got photos of him so proud as punch, and, to then have to turn around to him and say, look, I know last month it was okay for us to do it, but now with new laws that we've got introduced, you're going to have to wait like a year or two before you can shoot again. You can still hold the spotlight, but yeah, so that was a hard conversation. But, like even in his mind, it doesn't really frame him with a good view of the government and the control and what we can and can't do. Like, why are they telling us what we can and can't do on our farm, Dad? Like, we used to do this. Like, yeah, it's a difficult conversation.
Yeah, I had the exact same conversation with my kids, and my youngest, he was in kindy at the time, and he goes, "Why can't we just call up the police and go get the police to arrest the government?" I laughed so hard.
The innocence of children.
Yeah, exactly. So it was, it was hard talking to, a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old at the time, about that type of thing. And, especially because I've always had a distaste for the government as well. So I don't want to push that hatred across to him, but, having to explain to him, we can't bow hunt anymore, but we can still go bow fish, or we have to go to Victoria or New South Wales to still be able to bow hunt. But if you want to come hunting, we can take the rifle out, It was crazy
which shoots further.
It shoots further. Some of the smaller blocks I have, like I said, we got no caliber restrictions. But if you've got 20 acres, that it's a little scrubby block on the outskirts of a town, what's going to be better? A bow shooting deer in there, or letting off a 270 or a 300 at 6 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, that's it. Wake everybody up.
So yeah, and especially over here, we have a lot of greenies that live in the areas where there's the deer. So if they hear any gunshots at all, they're like, "Oh, the kangaroos," or "Oh, the and any of the native animals they're freaking out about, and that's their first thing, and they're straight on the phone calling the police.
Yeah, they moved to the country to lick the trees, not hunt animals.
It's crazy. Like, being a shooter, trying to get access to properties, you join a bunch of the community pages in the areas that you're hunting, and it's just like the complaints, someone was out spotlighting in this area till like 4 o'clock in the morning, and all I could hear was gunshots, and I was fearing for my life. It's like, you just move to the country. That's what happens in the country. That's how you get food to your table. And
yeah, since the COVID and the lockdowns and stuff that they had over here, obviously not as bad as like Melbourne and stuff, but we had a massive influx of people wanting to move their families out to the country and things. And you just look at the local social media pages and stuff, like the groups, and is that gunshots I hear? And people are like, yeah, it's a local kangaroo shooter, or what's that banging? What are those explosions? Like, they're shooting on their 1,000-acre property right next to you, which they are entitled to do. Like,
one that was over here recently was people harvesting crops. They were complaining that people were harvesting crops to like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, when they've moved right next to a paddock with crops in it, and it made the papers and the news over here.
Oh wow!
And it's just like, why do you move to those areas if you want it to be peaceful and quiet? Like, go live back in the city then.
Well, that's it, like farming and stuff like that's a 24-hour job, really. Things go wrong in the middle of the night sometimes, and guns have to get shot and machinery has to get started up. It's just a part of life.
That's it, especially when you've got heat waves like we've been having this time of year. You're not going to mow when it's 40 degrees during the day. You're going to have to wait till it cools off and try and attempt it at night, and people just lose their minds.
Yeah, they have the vehicle movement bans over here and stuff, which, if they'll issue that you can't drive a vehicle basically off-road until 5 p.m. or whatever, unless it's like basically for emergency stock situation, like checking waters and things like that. They basically stop all harvesting and tractor work and quad bikes and anything.
Yeah, wow, that's crazy. I've never heard of that one.
Yeah, it affects obviously a lot of the fellas in summer and the hotter months, and basically, during the Christmas and that period, they just issue one pretty much every day, so they don't have to worry about it.
Insane. How have the current laws in WA affected you when it comes to what you do for work and recreation?
Like I said, with the volunteer work I used to do, euthanizing the kangaroos and wildlife on the side of the road, I stopped doing that by choice. I was just that ticked off about everything, I guess. And, I'm a volunteer firefighter. My wife's a volunteer firefighter. I was kind of thinking, well, if they can trust me to go out there and, put my life at risk or try and save people in car crashes and things like that, and then they turn around and say they can't trust us to use firearms, it's pretty insulting. So I gave that away, and just, I suppose, out of not really understanding the laws, and there's a massive grey area still on what you can and can't do. I stopped doing the euthanasias for the vets and things as well, like where they'd call up and say, hey, can you go, put someone's horse down, it's got colic, blah, blah. We can't get out there. So stopped that. Obviously, I stopped my son shooting, my younger son. He can't shoot anymore until he's 12. Otherwise, that's a big no-no. And on a personal level, really that's pretty much it, I guess. I found it pretty interesting when I was doing the transition to the primary producer license. My wife had to handwrite me a letter and sign it and submit it to the police stating that I was a primary producer as one of the many requirements that I had, and that she wasn't going to apply for a primary producer license. Handwritten letter signed and then sent in. Like, it's my family directly, that's affected. And now I'm helping my dad sort out his stuff because, he doesn't really want to do the portal and things like that. So he uses our property as one of the properties to shoot on now. So I've got to try and allocate him somehow when he's not on the portal. You can't just, enter the license number and in the name and then just click add. So, yeah, we're going through that process with him because his license is due for renewal pretty soon.
That's crazy. What type of hoops and boundaries do you have to jump through for license renewals? Because as we mentioned earlier, they were talking about doing the mental health checks and all of that stuff. Has that all come into effect?
Yeah, so they, at the very start, they were, foot down, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. Once they started to get a lot of backlash, then they sort of lightened it a little bit. So once you hit 80, they have to do them every year, I believe. I think, I could be wrong, but don't quote me on it, but for new applicants, I think they have to do one, and then maybe every 5 years they have to do one. So they introduced this idea without even consulting any like the doctors and medical boards and things like that, and they're just throwing it out there, and then the doctors are like, what? They don't want to have that on their shoulders that they, signed off somebody and then that person goes and does something that they shouldn't do later down the track. So there was no consultation with them, so a lot of the doctors just flat out refused to do them, which, you can understand.
Yeah, that's crazy. So if they're refusing to do them and you can't get one done, like, what's going to happen there? Like, you can still, is it like someone just goes in and signs something, or you actually have to sit down and do a hour therapy session or whatever to...
Yeah, well, you're meant to book an appointment. They meet you. They, talk about what they need to talk about, ask you questions, fill out the questions. And a lot of the people sort of brought up legitimate issues now because it's all up to the police commissioner's discretion. So a lot of the regs, the 307 pages, is they cover every pretty much point with, up to police commissioner's discretion. So people were like, well, no one's going to bring up their mental health problems anymore. No one's going to want to go see a doctor and say, hey, I'm feeling pretty blue at the moment. Is there anything you can recommend or help me with, or things like that, because they don't want that on their name to then be used against them to, have to hand their firearms in.
Yeah, that's just absolute crazy. And like we said, it looks like this style is going to hit New South Wales pretty soon too. It wouldn't surprise me if they have to do the mental health checks and stuff like that. But the real scary one when it comes to the WA stuff was the social media posts. Anything criticising the government, you can lose your firearms license for.
Yeah, and basically, that all falls under the police commissioner's discretion. If they no longer deem you fit and fit for purpose, basically, to be able to have a firearms license, they can just decide you can't anymore. So they can also, if that is the case, they don't need a warrant to come into your house. They can just basically come in and seize your firearms whether you're there or not.
That's absolutely insane. And surely the police commissioners is not going through every single firearms application and renewal every single time. Like, is it just stuff that if it gets flagged, he's going through, or?
Yeah, I'd imagine so. Yeah, I mean, it must just be they've probably got people looking at posts and things, and or whatever. They recently did seized a heap of firearms and cancelled licenses for what they what's that word that they use after that Desi Freeman thing over east.
Yeah, all of the
I can't think of the name either.
Yeah, it's stupid. Sovereign citizen.
That's the one. Yeah. So I think there was, from what I understood, there was some Facebook group or maybe social media group that had all these members in it that basically said that they were, and they just got onto that and boom, 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 took it and took everything off, and yeah, so that was just basically because of what happened over east. They decided to do that over here. So
absolutely mental. And then there was that other guy who praised the shootings in Bondi, which I can understand why they took his firearms away from him, but it just shows again you just somewhat have to be careful on what you post.
Yeah, he was in Perth metropolitan area somewhere. I think he'd done some posts about it, making some bad remarks and things, and they did a big news story on it and stuff, how they'd done it, and basically seized his stuff, and that was it for him.
Yeah, it's absolutely nuts. We were chatting about the orgs before. What's your opinion on, from an outside looking into WA when it was all going down? To me, it looked like a big dick swinging competition between the orgs. No one wanted to work with each other, and there was too many egos getting in the way of actually anything getting done. Being in WA at the time, how do you see that all went?
It felt like there was a lot of talk and no action. There was sort of like a lot of fronting and things, and then when it got hard, they just kind of like backpedaled out of there. But that's really the best way I can describe it. I mean, I would have really expected a lot more from SSAA. I've paid membership for them for many, many years, and so have lots of people, and I still do actually. I like their insurance policies and things like that. But yeah, I was kind of expecting a big legal challenge or something, and obviously you've spoken to that woman before, but she was sort of the only hope for a lot of people out there. That was the only way forward for thousands of people, was that. So
yeah, and that's a difficult thing, she says that there's still stuff being done and all of that. Look, Kate is a friend of mine. She hasn't in my opinion, hasn't done much wrong. You know, a lot of people have a different opinion, but there is also a lot of people who were very, very jealous of how much traction she gained by herself, and she wouldn't give these other organizations the attention they felt they deserve, so they started smearing her name through the dust. And, you know, even before all of the GoFundMe stuff happened, like I did the first podcast with her before the laws were introduced, and just because she had a run at politics, people on Reddit were losing their mind, just saying that she's, you know, an evil, evil woman because she's so pro firearm and she's pro Second like Amendment type thing, and they absolutely were just shitting on her. I'm like, at the time, I'm like, you know, this is the only voice that's actually getting out there at the moment, backing you guys up, and all you're doing is bringing her down. And in my opinion, it was just that tall poppy syndrome. Someone was getting too high, and everyone else had to cut her down because they weren't getting the attention they felt they deserved.
Yeah, well, I didn't really know much, like too much about it until I started seeing the GoFundMe getting shared around, and you know, myself and a lot of people were just like, oh, grateful that someone was having a crack. And you know, like, because we all did feel so let down by other organisations, and even the agricultural sector. There was a few big name people who have a bit of weight and stuff who, like, basically sold everyone out pretty much and said, you know, primary producers only need this, they only need this, you know, I'm a farmer for, you know, blah blah. And then I think they took that and ran with it, and then they thought, oh, yeah, you know, this guy knows what he's talking about, so these are what the laws are going to be.
Yeah, it's that shits me off, and that's something that I've seen in the aftermath of Bondi is, you know, shooters and hunters going, oh, you don't need anything more than a 223 to shoot anything in Australia, or you don't need anything more than a 20 to do this, or, you know, why do you need multi-round magazines? Why can't you just have a single shot magazine? You know, it's just all these, and like, yeah, all these sporting shooters, hunters, farmers, whatever you want to, whatever box they fall under. But, you know, the worst thing that they can do is go out saying, oh yeah, I'm a hunter or I'm a shooter and I only do this, so everybody else should only do this.
Yeah, even the the animal welfare regs, or whatever they're called over here, and they have like a guideline for the euthanasia requirements and things, and if you read them, it says, you know, like cow or bull. I think a bull's a 22 Magnum. Man, I'm not getting into anywhere near a bull that's injured or anything with anything less than a 30 cow, like a 30-30 or, you know, 308 or something like that. That's me personally. You know, even like horses and stuff, when you have to euthanize them and things, if you can't get close, you know, 243 with a scope. But if you can get up close, then I'll use my 30-30 personally. But yeah, so like even the regulations that have this animal welfare best interests at mind, they're just so wrong and misguiding, like that it's just going to cause more problems, either injury to somebody or the animal, like further distress for the animal itself.
Yeah, it's absolutely nuts, and yeah, you see stuff on Facebook all the time when it comes to like deer hunting groups. You know, someone will shoot a fallow with, you know, I've seen one the last couple of days. Someone spotlighted a bunch of fallow with a 22-250, and then just in the comments, that's illegal. You can't do that. You have to have a 243 to do that. I live in Victoria. It doesn't matter what state you're in. That's illegal.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, people are just so misguided when it comes to this type of thing, and they just comment and act before they actually realise what's going on.
Yeah, go up there, get emotional, throw out some misinformation, and then the wrong person reads that as well and runs with that. So it's just, that's how it spreads.
Yeah, and that's the hardest thing, and I learned all this when it came to standing up against the bow hunting ban here in South Australia, is that a lot of the time there's not much you can do until they actually bring the law in when it comes to fighting it and all of that stuff. Because if a politician hasn't heard about it, even though that it's getting pushed through, you reacting to it before anything happens make you look like an idiot. And that's, from my understanding, that's why a lot of organisations don't like doing anything and putting any communication on what they're doing out, so that things don't go wrong. I've heard it with the Australian Bow Hunting Association here. They apparently did lots behind the scenes. They got kicked out of the office because they had no South Australian representative with them when they came to meet with the deputy premier who was bringing the law in. And they just tried doing all this stuff behind the scenes, but not telling anyone what they were doing. So everyone's like, you're not doing anything, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, when behind the scenes they're trying, but because they're not putting it out there on socials and letting everyone know what's actually happening, everyone thinks they're not doing anything at all.
Yeah, and then it's sort of this stuff gets announced and everyone goes, well, you guys have done nothing, and it's because the result's out before the cure, you know what I mean? It's all too little too late, and the name's mud pretty much.
Yeah, and unfortunately that's how our politics seem to work. Like, there's just not much you can do until something's brought into law, and then you can try and fight it and do stuff against it. But then it all comes down to a legal battle and money. Yeah,
and that's it, the bottom dollar.
So yeah, jumping over to what's going on with New South Wales and what's potentially going. So yeah, jumping onto the Bondi side of things and New South Wales with what's going on and potentially happening, Australia-wide. You've been pretty vocal about it, which has been awesome. You've been getting some good information out there, and as well as a bit of trolling and shitposting as well, which is another great way of getting the information out there, in my opinion. What's your word of advice to what's going on over there, and how do you see it looking from what's happened to WA?
I think it's probably sort of not set in stone, but the information that I've seen is, I think they were talking about maybe 4 firearms for recreational hunters and things like that. And at first, I think they were saying that there was going to be no recreational hunting. I think they backpedaled on that, from what I understand. I guess do your homework, do your own reading. I mean, over here they mentioned lever actions at the start, confusing lever actions with lever release. So everyone, with a old 30-30 or the old 22s and stuff, are like, lever action's going to get taken off, like why, and things. Everyone thought they're going to have to get rid of those guns, but I guess it's just, take your time, try not to spread misinformation, and try not to listen to misinformation unless it's from a credible source. And at the moment, I guess we don't really know what that credible source is going to be.
Yeah, that's the scary thing about it, is there's just so many people up in arms at the moment, and so much misinformation getting spread around. Even between shooting orgs, everybody's in a panic, and because it's happened over Christmas when a lot of the big organisations were shut down, there was just not much going on. So hopefully moving forward, by the time this podcast comes out, there's going to be, a bit more transparency of some of the bigger orgs going ahead. This GoFundMe with McDonald Law, hopefully there's more. I think that's ticked over 500,000 now on just his, and then maybe I think about 600 combined with these other ones that are around as well. So if you are listening to this and it's still going, if you feel like it, donate. It's in my opinion, something that could help, and especially get things going. It's not going to be the be all end all just by donating a couple $100,000, but it's going to be a good start in fighting what's happening.
Well, that's it. I mean, you can either not do anything, not contribute anything, and then whinge about the result, or you can, even $1 or $2, or anything helps. Those legal fellas and ladies do their jobs and things. So lay down and die, or you try and contribute and, help the sport, help the farmers and all those people.
Yeah, that's the thing. You can bitch and moan on Facebook, which I've been doing as well, but you can direct that bitch and moaning to get people to write to their MPs. Even though that, I seen one Queensland MP bitching and moaning that he was getting a bunch of emails and it doesn't concern him because he was either a state or federal, so it didn't even concern him because it didn't happen in Queensland, and he was just being a big bitch about it, and tore some guy's head off for mailing his MP, which is, they shouldn't be able to do that. That's ridiculous. People have genuine concerns, especially when Albo's threatening to pretty much take the hands of all firearms in Australia, which is what he was originally wanting to do.
Yeah, well, I said, I think I said on one of my posts, talking about like the MPs and things, and they're like, why does somebody in inner Sydney need to have guns or whatever? Like from my perspective, and a lot of other primary producers and people with land and things, a lot of the people who are actually willing to volunteer their time to come out and help and do vermin control and things like that are people from inner city. They've got small blocks to look after, or they live in apartments and things like that. So they've got free time to be able to get out into the country and help people, help their fellow Australians and things like that. Manage pests, and, that helps the flora and fauna, the native flora and fauna and things like that. So they ask questions like that. The answer is because they're the people with the time and dedication to come do it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Farmers don't have a lot of time, and the time that they do have is doing work around their farm. So when it comes to pest control or even recreational shooting, they don't get a lot of time to do it. So when you get these people who are volunteers to come up to these properties, and some of them aren't even volunteers, they're paying for their free time to go up to shoot feral animals on somebody's property. And shooting pigs out on farmland, that puts cereal in your bowl eventually. It's, if you get outnumbered pigs, that farmer's not going to produce much grain, and then you're not going to have food in your local supermarket.
Yeah, well, in our area, they had a aerial cull recently. Well, they asked the property owners if we would do an aerial cull recently of deer, and like if we would permit it, because it was just a drop and rot scenario kind of thing. And our area basically overwhelmingly said no. And they did one further down south. I think they did a couple down there in different areas, and I think they did over, 530 something deer or whatever in a time period. But like the main focal point from the area I'm in is that people wanted recreational hunters and stuff to come out and do it because they know they're gonna, number one, take the carcass, not just leave it to rot in the paddock. Number two, close gates and not damage any property, or scare livestock and that with a helicopter flying over that doesn't need to be.
Yeah, so something down here in South Australia, we have huge helicopter culling operations, and pretty much they'll fly over a property with thermals and do a deer count on properties, and then they'll go to that owner and go, hey, we've counted this many animals on your property. If you don't let us on, we're going to fine you every time we go over and find animals on your property. And they bully the landowners into letting them on.
That's crazy. And that's government ran, is it? It's like a government agency. Yeah, well.
Yeah, so it's the landscape board down here, I'm pretty sure, is who controls it. And, I think they're all tied in with that wanker from the threatened species, not the threatened species commissioner, but whatever the other one is. He spoke out about firearm owners owning anything over a 308. His name's Jack Goff. So, he's got a very fitting name, Jack Goff.
Just like Wayne Kerr. Yeah. Wayne Kerr.
Yeah. And it's just, like this guy's like, hunters don't need anything bigger than 308. And, I don't know if it's true or not. It's something I've seen on Facebook, but it sounds like that group that he's involved in is like a bunch of former Greens members that have come on and put together an organisation. But again, I've only read it on Facebook. I haven't done my proper research, but every time his name comes off, I just get pissed off.
Rings the alarm bells.
Oh, it does. It does. As soon as I see it. So you mentioned before about fishing bans. Do you do much fishing over there, and what's happening over there? Because I've seen a lot of different things when it comes to the fishing bans over in WA.
Yeah, so I don't get out anywhere near as what I'd like to. That's a hobby I love. I've got a boat and love taking my kids out fishing and things. So basically what they introduced didn't really give any notice. December, I think it was 20, maybe 21, something like that. That was going to be the cease of commercial fishing. So we're talking millions of dollars worth of commercial fishing boats park up. That's it, job done. And so like the snappers and the jewfish, can't fish for them, but also recreational fishing from a boat, you can't catch snapper, dewfish, or demersal fish from a boat. You can catch it from a beach, or you can use a drone to take your fishing line out from the beach, but you can't do it from a boat.
So yeah, from what I read, and I'd seen multiple different things, it was the ban of commercial in certain areas, and then like a 50% reduction in certain areas on recreation. So that's the banning of chasing those fish from boats.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so even if you require a vessel to get where you're going, so say you jump on a boat, you go to an island, you aren't allowed to beach fish from that island because you've used a boat to get there.
That's insane.
So it's essentially like the coastline that they've actually stopped it is massive. It's basically a huge portion of the fishing industry is captured in that area. So I mean, they got crayfish now. What, whiting? That's
What's the concern there? Is that fish stocks have dropped dropped a heap or not?
Yeah, so that's what they're plugging. They're saying that they're in critical low levels and things. There's different theories out there. People said that they seen where they put the sensors and stuff and they were basically putting them all in sandbars, or like sandy areas where the fish aren't, like dewfish and that. They're like the coral and like the reefs and things like that. So it's kind of like they fudged it, and then there's other people are saying that they're doing it so that they can drill and clear areas for gas and things like that. So there's lots of little theories out there, but the story they're selling is that these numbers are critically low. But we've seen footage put up from scuba divers recently, dives, just seas of jewfish and snapper and stuff where they're diving and things, and I don't know, it's just not adding up.
Yeah, it's a scary time. Is it Labor in power over WA?
Yeah, 3 terms in a row. Yeah.
Yeah, so Labor here as well. We're seeing a completely different thing when it comes to fishing here in South Australia. Is we're having this massive algae bloom in the Gulf, pretty much where Adelaide is, and majority of people go fishing out in boats and beaches and jetties and stuff like that. And they've said that it's from the settlement from the big floods in the early 2020s, going out to sea and then eventually working their way out, and all the nutrients creating the algae and then drifting into the Gulf.
Okay.
We've got multiple desalinization plants in the Gulf that suck out the salt water, spit out the salt settlement back into the Gulf, and in these Gulfs we have 2 dodge tides a day, so that settlement doesn't get taken out to sea. It warms the water up, warm water produces algae. So it's just a total shit show. The government over here, like the same lady that banned bow hunting here in South Australia, she was our environmental minister, and she actually quit her job shortly after all of this come out. Like, you never seen her speak about it or anything, and then she quit her job. But from what I've heard, she got forced out from all the shit that she was doing in the background. And then Labor's recently come out trying to defend themselves. Apparently a bunch of the scientists have been told to hold off on reports until after the election, so that it doesn't affect the election, which is just crazy.
Yeah, well, that's with the fishing ban as well. So they've, I don't know how much you've heard about it, but it's 2 years for recreational fishing from a boat. But my understanding, what they've announced is that's it for commercial fishing. So it's not like, park up and then 2 years try and start up again. It's you either go try and fish for something else, like everyone else is already doing, or that's it.
You'd almost think that they would put more pressure on other species and lead you back to the exact same position you're in with the damsel fish.
Oh, that's it. Now everyone's going to start going after crayfish more, and then it will be, stocks are low on the crayfish, guys, so we're going to have to back that off, and you can pretty much play fishing on your PlayStation, and that's it.
Yeah, well, that's what we've had with snapper here in South Australia. Is they've had I think it's a 6 or 7 years long snapper ban, and it's just every time it's supposed to get taken off, it gets another couple of years added onto it. But it looks like the snapper stocks are coming back, but they're still not doing much to reverse it.
Is there much confidence over there with like the actual survey numbers being accurate though, or is it chit chat that it's just for other reasons?
It's more not the survey. Yeah, I don't know. You get a lot of recreational guys. They're going out and they're just throwing loads of snapper back. They can't catch anything else but snapper.
Plague.
The squid, like, we've had all sorts of fish wash up because of this algae bloom. Everything from great whites to squid to frickin' leafy sea dragons just absolutely get devastated. And, now there's reports of people not catching any squid out in the Gulf, like none at all. And, what does snapper feast on? They feast on squid. And so they think it's like a mixture of the algae bloom and the snapper stocks being so high and not being fished for.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, oh, that makes sense.
It's an absolute shit show.
Yeah.
Was there anything else that you wanted to cover?
No, not really. I mean, I suppose you've probably heard a lot of it before about the WA things. It was nice to be able to add something from like the primary producer sort of perspective, and stuff like that. But yeah, like I guess there was a lot of unknowns at the start, and there's going to be a lot of unknowns going forward. I was looking through emails and that before. It was like 38 emails I did back and forth with licensing, various things to get compliant and things. So they'd send out a request, hey, can you send out a handwritten letter from your wife, blah, 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 stating this. Okay, send it back in, and you're like, I must be done now. You don't hear anything for 2 weeks. You get another email. Oh, thanks. Can you now send through a letter from your accountant to, show that you're a primary producer, and you're classified as one with the ATO? All right, yeah, no worries. Pay the accountant to write a letter, send that back. All right, thanks for that. And then they even went to things like asking for business invoices with my business name and my name on it and things to prove it, even though the ATO's already said, hey, they got the primary production classification, things. And yeah, it just felt like the goalposts were constantly being moved. But I generally think that was because they were still trying to figure out themselves, like the people in the licensing center, it's not their fault. They've probably just been put into the role and they haven't been given the information that they need to be able to get the job done effectively.
Yeah, exactly. And probably positive that none of them know anything about firearms or firearm ownership either.
Yeah, like all the conversations I had when you finally could get through on the hotline, they were all very respectful, and that's my biggest advice for people that are going to be going through this stuff: is you've got to be respectful, you've got to be mature. Like these people in the licensing centres and things, it's not necessarily their fault. They just got a job to do. You just got to be mature about it and help them help you, I guess.
Yeah, man. It is a very hard thing not to get emotional when it comes to it all. You know, I got very emotional here when it came to the bow hunting ban. I blasted some guy on the radio for just after Susan Close, our deputy premier, who was also the environmental minister, came on, and she just blatantly lied through her teeth. So I went on there, and they ended up cutting me off. Like I was fuming.
Oh no, I completely understand. Like one of my neighbours, he's like a fourth, fifth generation in this area farming. He had 20 something firearms, a lot of them handed down. Every time I seen him, because we'd always talk about it and things, every time I seen him, it looked like he'd aged. Like he was losing sleep over it. He was stressing about it. He's always been one of those guys that are very much, like face-to-face kind of conversations. So he wants to go down to a police station and sort it out like he traditionally used to do. So he couldn't understand that he couldn't go do that because he had to try and talk to these licensing people. They were on hold for 8-9 hours a day, and then the line would hang up saying call back tomorrow. Like, it's just, the poor fella.
That's insane. Like being on hold for that long. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I took a day off work dedicated to, all right, I'm going to get through today. So, like no work today, and I sat there, I think it was 6 hours before I got through.
Fuck, that's just mental. That just shows you how poorly thought out all of these laws are when they try and bring them in. All they're trying to do is, look at me, I brought in new gun laws, I'm helping save people, there's not going to be any more gun crime now. And then they dump all these laws, and there's been no thought process going in whatsoever.
Yeah, I think I've heard of stories of blokes who work offshore, and then there's a lot of FIFO in Western Australia and stuff, and then, like those people couldn't get compliant in time for the licensing and things like that, and then they'd be at work, and then their wife would call or something, or they'd get home from break, and basically all their firearms are taken and licensed. That's it, done.
That's crazy. So what, they just come rip the safe out of the ground pretty much?
From what I heard, they bring a locksmith, yeah. There's some people put up some footage basically from his farm, like CCTV or like, ring cameras or whatever it is, of them basically just going in, locksmith through the thing, locksmith through the safe, carrying them all out, and then off they went.
That's insane. That's criminal.
Well, it's basically against everything that you brought up believing, is like, oh, your home is your castle and things, and people don't come in unless you invite them. That's how I was raised, but and the police, it just feels like,
and the police and government are there to protect you.
Yeah, and it's all the thing that confuses me a lot, and I don't understand. It's all up to one person and their opinion, the police commissioner. Someone else might look at someone and say, no, they're fine, they're just whatever. And the other, he might just have a vengeance against someone and decide, or he or she, and they're not fit for purpose anymore.
Has a particular political belief, and then anyone who goes against it, they're gone.
Yeah, that's it. It'll be all the One Nation voters next. They'll be...
There's a new cult, the One Nation cult. We must disarm them all. Fuck it. Hunting side of things, is there any animals that you have like a bucket list for that you would want to go, money not being an issue, overseas or interstate to go chase?
Yeah, man, I've never shot a deer. Never, ever. There are deer around here. I've just never had the opportunity. They had supposedly a deer farm, the ghost stories from years ago. There was a deer farm up down the road, and it was an insurance job, so he cut all the fences to let all the deer go, and that's how the population got here. But no, I've done done pigs, and obviously they're around everybody everywhere now, and foxes and rabbits and things. But yeah, I don't know. I just like the the backcountry kind of things. I'd love to go, out bush for a week sort of thing, self-sufficient, and see what you can get. You see the guys in America and things, and it's just awestruck.
Well, we're lucky we do have parts of Australia we can go do that, and Victoria is one of them. And there's a few guys that do a couple trips down every other year from WA. It's definitely something you should look at doing, and you could take your kids down there and enjoy it too. I'm not sure if you've seen much about it, but there's the hog deer ballot. I'm not sure if you've ever put in for that, but
I've heard about it.
Yeah, every year there's a ballot for that, and you can go either Snake Island, Bull Pool, or Blonde Bay, and they draw your name to go do that. And one of the fellas from WA I've had on the podcast, his name escapes me right now, but he drew it, and he went down to Snake Island and hunted down there. Big trip from WA down there, but he absolutely loved it. And you can also go chase sambar and that down there too. There's heaps down there. Yep. So I'd definitely recommend eventually get down there and go do that.
A trip of a lifetime, I reckon.
Oh yeah, there's guys like Jason Spencer from Hunt Catch Cook. I know he's done a few flights down to Vic and gone hunting them down there, just flying down. So that's always a good option as well. You just can't bring much meat back, but you can bring some. Yeah.
Has there been much talk on that you know of more about the National Firearm Registry and what's that going to affect? Or
no, there's been not much about it at all. It's just all rumors and that so far. I've heard everything from people not like you're going to have to keep your firearms at a gun club and all of that type of stuff. Or everyone has to keep their firearms in one freaking armory.
Yeah, right. They got a fella on the run in WA at the moment. He's supposedly had 16 firearms seized from his house. Not a licensed shooter, not licensed firearms. So yeah, it's not going to stop people doing the wrong thing that want to do the wrong thing.
Oh, it definitely won't be. It's easier to get an illegal firearm in Australia than it is getting a legal one. So it's just absolutely ridiculous. What about overseas? Would there be anything overseas, or just your pest control type sort of shooting?
Oh, Alaska, Canada. I've seen shown this documentary once. I think it was about maybe Kodiak Island in Alaska, where they go after the grizzlies. I don't know, something like that. It would just seem so impossible to achieve. I would just be pinching myself for years after that, I think.
Yeah, it would be absolutely crazy. Bears definitely on my bucket list. How do you see the views on hunting and hunters? Like just everyday life, like speaking to people?
Not too bad, sort of in my environment, because this is sort of like a big country demographic. Obviously, like we breed horses and stuff, so a lot of the horse people are country as well that we have interactions with. The media, obviously, they just portray us all as like there's something wrong with us. I think they sort of pretty quick to forget that that's how we used to all survive back in the day, and even early 1900s and 1950s, 1960s, all that kind of stuff. That's how Australians fed their families, was shooting rabbits, eating rabbits. Rabbit was on the menu 7 days a week, like that. There was no Coles or Woolworths down the road.
Yeah, you definitely see a lot of that. You speak to some of the older generation, and they won't touch a rabbit with a 10-foot pole because that's all they were force-fed as a kid.
Rabbit stew.
That's it. How would you change the public views on hunting and hunters?
I think a lot of it's inexperience, and maybe people get this image from Hollywood and things that you put a gun on a table and then it's just going to murder everybody. But I think a lot of it's just media driven. So education, respectful dialogue, there's a couple of good people who really know how to communicate that kind of stuff well to people. But I mean, me personally, like I kind of take more of like the American style gun thing. Like I think you should be able to defend yourself, and I think you should be able to go hunting. And if you've done nothing wrong, I don't think you should be restricted. I'm all for restricting the people that do things wrong 100%. But yeah, so I don't know. I guess communication and education, really.
Yeah, 100%. I'm very similar to you. I'm very pro firearm, and like you said, if you haven't done anything wrong, you should have no real restrictions. It's stupid restricting firearms and numbers and calibers and actions and all of that stuff, especially when the people bringing the laws in have no clue when it comes to any of it.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. Like even like you think about the castle law stuff. Like I think in WA it's equal or lesser force if someone's broken into your house or whatever. It's like, well, hang on, now I've got to think about it. They've got a knife. If I get a bat, is that equal? Or if they've got a bat, what if I get my kitchen knife? Is that equal or lesser force? Like you shouldn't have to think about that. It should be, protect your family, protect your things, and that should be the only thing you're concerned about.
Oh, it's like they were telling people, they're advising people if someone's breaking in your house just to try and leave safely. Your belongings aren't worth your life.
Yeah, it's like, well, most of the people who are breaking into your house are of the mentality that they're already a violent person, like they're not going to come in and just be polite about it. Yeah. I guess most of them get done at night time when people are sleeping and things, and you hear stories all the time of people's waking at 4 o'clock in the morning and there's people standing over their beds, and I don't know, it's terrifying.
Yeah, it's just absolutely mental. And the fact that certain political parties can try and they're the victim, it's not their fault that they're less fortunate and you have stuff they want.
Yeah. I mean, like even if you look at the shooting recently and previous ones as well, and knife attacks and stuff, which seem to be a huge thing at the moment. The knives and machetes and stuff, like they're killing more people than guns, 100%. Like if you had someone who had like a carry permit on them, they could stop the situation pretty much straight away. Like,
just look how quick that detective, who is a professional shooter. He is a member of a pistol club, and he does all he shoots. He was accurate enough to stop him at 40 meters. If only someone was able to do it sooner.
Yeah, hell of a shot. 40 meters under fire as well. Bloody hell, he just deserves the accolades, that fella.
Yeah, that's it. Him and that other fella that tried stopping him, and he ended up getting shot. But yeah, it's just absolutely crazy. And I knew, like, when it happened, I just finished a podcast. I turned all the recording gear off, and first thing I've looked at my phone was all of that. And it took me about 6 hours to get to bed. And the first post I did, I'm like, my heart goes out to everyone. But hell, that, like, I know we're in for the fight of our lives, and people were upset at the time that I put that post up, but I just knew straight away that they were coming after us. I'm like, we're done as firearm owners in Australia.
I think there wouldn't be many licensed firearm shooters in Australia who wouldn't have had that same thought, like, oh, here we go, or something like that, Even the thing in WA, there's people on the pages, like local WA pages, like, oh, I bet you they're going to say he's a licensed fella, or, and they came out and said that he wasn't, thankfully. But, whether that's used as, all right, now we need even more further protections because there's so many unlicensed firearms out there. So,
yeah, what it will end up being with that WA one, he was licensed until they brought in the new laws, and he never surrendered his firearms. It will be something like that.
Yeah. One of those one of those ones that recently got all their guns taken off him, that Desi Freeman fella.
Yeah.
Those people.
Exactly. Coming up to the end, my favourite and final question is, what is hunting, shooting, and the outdoors to you?
it's me. Like I go down the back of my property sometimes just by myself, and whether it's to go after rabbits, roos, or whatever, or just nothing. I just love being down there. I get to forget about stuff. It's the same when I'm out on the water, on the boats and things. Like I don't think about the stresses of life. It's a great way to connect with your family and, friends that you get to introduce to the world. I mean, like I coach a junior rugby league team, and a lot of those kids are from the cities and stuff like that. And we bring them out to the farm every year at the end of the year for their trophy days, and just to see the smiles on their faces being outdoors, and, they're not sitting in front of the screens, and taking them down tractor rides, see the cows, see the horses and stuff. It just means the world to me to see them happy for it. So yeah, it's I spend the majority of my day outside, man. I'm not going to lie. Like, it's nice to come in and watch TV and stuff like that. But it means everything to me.
No, you've answered that beautifully, and I can relate, and I guarantee all the listeners can relate as well. If people have enjoyed what they've heard, where can they find you on social media, and where can they support you?
I got banned off TikTok, so I've deactivated, and then I got unbanned, but then I got restricted, so I deactivated that. But mainly just Instagram now, rcr.olly, and YouTube, same name. But then if you're after horses, you want to buy some horses, it's Rocky Creek Ranch on Facebook.
No, awesome, man. I really appreciate you coming on. It's been a good chat, and I've loved hearing your story on everything that's happened in WA. It's going to be a good help for people in New South Wales and possibly around Australia over the next couple of years.
No, thanks very much for inviting me. It's an honour to be here, and I've enjoyed the chat. It's been good. If anyone's got any questions or anything about what happened to me personally in WA and the process and things, just reach out, send us a message, and I'll try my best to answer you the best I can.
Yeah, no, that's it. It's a time of unity. We all have to stick together. It's not one discipline over another. It's we're all in this together. So just support each other and help each other where you can. Easy. Yeah,
that's it. Beautiful, mate. Thank you very much.
Easy. Thank you. Have a good one.
All right.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Hunting Connection Podcast. We hope you've enjoyed our discussions and gained valuable insights into the world of hunting, fishing, and the outdoors. To stay connected with us and never miss out on an update, please be sure to follow us on social media, all at Hunting Connection Podcast. We appreciate your support and would love for you to share the podcast with your friends and family. Don't forget to tag us in your hunting photos on social media and let us know about your experiences. Your feedback is invaluable to us, so please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Together, we continue growing and delivering more captivating episodes for all hunting enthusiasts. Stay connected, stay informed, and keep pursuing your passion for the hunt. Until next time, happy hunting.